Before America had borders, before the Constitution had ink, before the Revolution had a name, there were families who stepped into the wilderness because something inside of them refused to stay behind the line the Crown had drawn. My family was one of them, the Ankeneys. DeWalt, Christian, and Peter lived the American story before the American story had words. They crossed mountains no one was supposed to cross, built homes where no homes were allowed, and defended their neighbors when the frontier turned violent. This documentary is not just their story. It's mine. It's yours. Because the courage that built this country still echoes in us today. Johann Theobald DeWalt Ankeny arrived in Pennsylvania in the mid-1700s, stepping into a world that was more forest than farm, more frontier than colony. He came from the German states, carrying with him the belief that the New World was a place where a man could carve out a future with his own hands. He settled in the back country, where life was measured not in comfort, but in endurance. The land was harsh, the winters unforgiving, and the dangers constant. Yet DeWalt thrived. He became a substantial landholder, respected among his neighbors, known for his reliability and his willingness to help others. By the time the Revolution began, DeWalt was too old to take up arms, but he wasn't too old to serve. He contributed grain and livestock to the local militia, assisted in fortification efforts, and signed the oath of allegiance to the new republic. His name appears in early Pennsylvania tax rolls and militia support documents, proof that even in old age, he stood firmly with the patriot cause. Family accounts tell of a winter when a militia company passed through the region, starving and exhausted. DeWalt opened his stores, giving them grain he had planned to save for his own family. It was an act of quiet patriotism, the kind that never makes it into textbooks, but keeps armies alive. Around 1774 or 1775, DeWalt's sons, Christian and Peter, prepared to leave the settled East and cross the Allegheny Mountains into the forbidden lands of the West. DeWalt himself remained behind, but he supported their move with resources, advice, and the confidence that his sons were strong enough to survive what lay beyond the ridge. He had raised them for this moment. He had lit the torch. Now they would carry it. Christian Ankeny was born on Christmas Day, 1749 in Pennsylvania. He grew up in a world where the frontier shifted like a living creature, sometimes quiet, sometimes violent, always unpredictable. When he crossed the Alleghenies with his brother, he entered a land that was still raw, unsettled, and dangerous. The region that would become Somerset County was a patchwork of scattered cabins, dense forests, and narrow trails. There were no towns, no government protection, and no guarantee of survival. Christian settled near the Kamahoning Creek, where he built something the frontier desperately needed: a mill. It was the first mill in the area, and its importance cannot be overstated. Without mills, settlers couldn't grind grain into flour. Without flour, they couldn't survive the winter. Christian's mill became the lifeline of the valley. Families traveled miles through the forest and snow to reach it. It was a place where news was exchanged, where neighbors met, where the community took shape. The mill anchored settlement patterns around it, drawing people toward the stability Christian provided. Christian's land holdings grew as the community expanded. He owned acreage along the creek, enough to support farming, milling, and livestock. His property became one of the early centers of life in the region. He wasn't just a millwright, he was a builder of a community. When the Revolution reached the frontier, Christian joined the militia as a lieutenant. His service included the defense of Kamahoning Settlement, the protection of Brothers Valley Township, and participation in frontier alarms during the raids of 1777 through 1782. These were not named battles. They were the daily, grinding, dangerous work of frontier defense. Christian coordinated with Fort Bedford and Fort Ligonier, helping maintain supply lines that kept the region alive. He also served as court-martial officer, a role that required judgment, fairness, and a deep understanding of human nature. He presided over cases of desertion, disputes between militia members, and matters of discipline. His decisions shaped the morale and effectiveness of the militia. He was respected for his steadiness, his fairness, and his commitment to the community's survival. Christian's legacy lives on through his descendants, many of whom are members of the Daughters of the American Revolution. His name appears in Dar records as a patriot, a man who defended his town when the revolution came to their doorstep. His mill, his land, and his leadership helped build the foundation of Somerset County. If Christian were the shield, Peter was the spear. Born in 1751, Peter was restless, ambitious, and unafraid of the unknown. In 1773, he married Rosina Bonnet, and together they made a decision that would define the Ankeny legacy. They crossed the Allegheny Mountains into the land the Crown said no colonist could settle. The British Proclamation of 1763 forbade settlements west of the Alleghenies, but Peter ignored it. He led his family along the Forbes Road, a dangerous military route carved through the mountains. The journey was brutal: steep grades, mud, broken wagons, sickness, and the constant threat of attack. But Peter believed the land beyond the ridge was meant for free men. He became one of the first settlers west of the Alleghenies, establishing himself in what would become Somerset County. His brother Christian followed soon after. Together, they helped shape the early settlement of the region. Peter's land holdings grew rapidly. By the time of his death in 1804, he was the largest landowner in southwest Pennsylvania. His estate was valued at over $21,000, an enormous sum for the era. His land supported farming, livestock, and community development. He donated land for a cemetery, now known as Ankeny Square, and for a schoolhouse that became a center of community and community life. During the Revolution, Peter served as captain of the 5th Company, 3rd Battalion, Bedford County Militia. His company participated in the defense of Turkeyfoot Valley, the protection of Somerset settlements, escort missions along Forbes Road, and frontier alarms during the Black Year of 1780. He coordinated with Fort Pitt and Fort Ligonier, helping maintain the fragile security of the region. Peter's character is preserved in Dar patriot stories and regional histories. He is remembered as brave, generous, and deeply committed to the welfare of others. He was a protector of families, a leader in crisis, and a man whose actions shaped the future of the region. The frontier was a battlefield, though not in the way history books often describe. Christian and Peter didn't fight in named battles of the Continental Army. They fought in the unnamed battles of the frontier. The raids, alarms, and skirmishes that determined whether families lived or died. They defended Kamahoning settlement during the raids of 1777. They protected Brothers Valley Township during periods of unrest. They responded to alarms in Turkeyfoot Valley and Somerset Valley. They escorted supply lines along Forbes Road, ensuring that food and ammunition reached Fort Bedford and Fort Ligonier. They endured the Black Year of 1780, when frontier settlements were under constant threat. These engagements were not recorded with the precision of major battles, but they were no less real. They were the daily work of survival. They were the battles that shaped the frontier. The world Christian and Peter built was harsh, unforgiving, and beautiful. They carved farms out of wilderness. They built mills, homes, and schools. They raised families in danger. They created community where none had existed. They lived without government protection, without medical care, without certainty. They endured winters that killed the unprepared, raids that tested their courage, and isolation that demanded resilience. Their contributions, Christian's mill, Peter's land donations, DeWalt's support, formed the backbone of early Somerset County. Their names appear in land records, tax rolls, militia documents, and DAR files. Their legacy is preserved not in monuments, but in the communities they built. Today, both Christian and Peter are honored as patriots by the Daughters of the American Revolution. Their descendants number in the hundreds. Their names appear in DAR applications across the country. Their legacy is not forgotten. It's celebrated. They were patriots, not because they fought in famous battles, but because they lived the revolution every day. This is my family. This is the bloodline that shaped me. This is why I speak the way I do about this country. Because the people I come from crossed forbidden mountains. They built the first mill. They defended their towns. They carved homes out of wilderness. They lived as Americans before America existed. Their courage is not abstract. It's real. It's personal. It's the story of the Republic itself. And now, through my voice, their story will be told, not just for my family, but for every American who has forgotten where we came from. May their names never be forgotten. May their courage never fade. May their legacy ring in the memory of all who hear it. This documentary is based on verified historical records, including DAR Patriot files, Bedford County militia rolls, Somerset County settlement histories, Roots Web, Ankeny archives, Pennsylvania land and tax records, Forbes Road migration documents, and Somerset County deeds.